that's when depression hit. That's when I questioned God, I questioned my faith. Honestly, I didn't really care about living. You will never heal what you're in denial from. It doesn't work at all. You know, some of us, we try to mask it, we try to suppress it. And one of the things that I love to say, suppression will lead to depression. So, own it, right? Change your environment. When the flower doesn't blossom, we don't blame the environment. We don't blame the flower. What do we do?
It's the environment.
We change the environment.
Yes.
I call them growth environments, right? Because it's impossible to grow your life if you're around an environment that don't promote growth.
Yes.
And so, I don't want to get into this, but actually I do want to get into it.
Let's do it.
I had to.
Welcome back to Max Out, everybody. I am Ed Mylett, and by popular demand, I have the man to my left here today. He's one of the most inspirational figures in the world, author, motivational speaker, thought leader, and for me, one of the most interesting and influential people in all of social media, somebody that I'm very proud to call a friend of mine, former NFL football player, Baylor football player, wonderful father and husband. Trent Shelton's here with me today.
Hey, man, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Thank you for
I'm glad
being
we
here.
could connect, man. I've been waiting for this for a long time.
I think a lot of people have been waiting for this.
For
and
sure.
So today's going to be life-changing for so many of you because we're going to talk a little bit about Trent's story, but we're also going to get into things that help you change your life. The thing I love most about you, I've told you this off camera, is big, strong, unbelievable athlete. What's your vulnerability?
Right.
It's your willingness to admit the things that have been your deficiencies and weaknesses in the past. In fact, I think you've built your whole following on the transformation you have made and are making in your own life. And I think probably more than anything, the people that watch my show are interested in transforming their life. So I feel like I have the perfect person here today.
I appreciate it, man.
And it'll be one of the easiest interviews just because I know how much we enjoy each other's company too. So I said professional football player. There's so much to your story, but I want to sort of start in football because I think that's where some of the defining moments of your life started to happen. So take my audience through your football career a little bit and then what took place for you and what you were learning, who you were at that time, those kinds of things.
So just like a lot of kids, that was my dream, to be a professional athlete since I was a little kid. I had two older brothers, so I had really no choice. You know, they made me be that. And so blessed enough, high school, went to Baylor. Then I went to the NFL, but I was supposed to be drafted in the 4th round. I didn't get the call, so I think that was like my first shot at not feeling like I was enough.
So you're sitting there on draft day with your family, second day probably, thinking I'm gonna get a call, and it never happens.
Never happened. And of course my mom was like, "You're okay," and I'm like, "I'm okay" when I'm not okay.
You weren't okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's your first bout of I may not be enough.
Yep, my first time when I look back in my story, my journey. That's the first time I really felt like that. Got a call from, my uncle coaches for the Chargers now, but he was with the Vikings, and he kind of was my advisor to where to go as a free agent. Okay. So he told me to go with Coach Dungy, because he's like, Coach Dungy, I know him as a man. He's going to give you a fair shake. So I went to the Indianapolis Colts, and
they had a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah, it was Peyton Manning.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. You know, he's all right. You know, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison. So, and that's the year after they won the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
So it was great to be in that environment.
Okay. So everybody needs to know he's a wide receiver, and Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison, one's a Hall of Famer, one's going to be a Hall of Famer. So you're in pretty good company, and with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Exactly. I mean, it's a dream come true.
Dream
I had to
situation.
pitch myself and not freak out when I first seen these guys. Right?
I'm sure.
So I had a great preseason, probably the best in the NFL that year. Definitely out of rookies, but even out of just all the players. I think maybe top receiver in the NFL during the preseason. Of course, you know, the main guys aren't playing all the games, you know, so I'm getting more snaps. And so I was for sure like I was going to make the team. Okay. You know, I'm doing good on special teams. I'm like, good, I'm going to make the team. Get a call in on, of course, the cut day, and I get cut.
Whoa.
And so that's another shot at my confidence and feeling like I'm not enough, right? I'm like, man, I did the best I can do. I performed great. And Reggie told me something, I don't know if he remembers this, but he said, about this league, you have to understand something. It's about timing, it's about opportunity. So you can play your best preseason and get cut. You can play an average season and make the team. And so I got cut, but I made the practice squad. So I was cool with that. I got an apartment, I bought myself a truck, which I shouldn't have did, but I did it. Right? That was like my promise to myself, like I'm gonna get the truck. Bought myself a truck, and within a week, I get a call from a 317 number, and that's Indianapolis. I'm at the bank actually, cashing my first, putting my first check in there. It's like, hey, Trent, where are you at? And I was like, I'm at the bank, and it's like, well, come into the office and bring your stuff. So at that point, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. So I come in there, bring my stuff, and they said, we got to release you.
Oh no! Oh my gosh!
After I got my apartment, I got my car.
Oh my God!
So I have to drive from Indy to Texas, which is a long drive after you get fired.
Home.
Exactly. Home.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm depressed, man. I'm there for 2 weeks. I get a call back from Indianapolis. They call and bring me back.
Bring you back.
Then 3 weeks later, I get cut.
Emotional roller coaster.
Roller coaster. And that was my whole career, just to be honest with you. With Seattle, it was the same thing. I mean, I tell this story a lot. I remember being in Dallas, and I get a call from Seattle in my second year. I was with the Seahawks. And they say, Trent, we want to bring you back. And I was like, hey, well, can I come tomorrow? Because it was an off day. And they say, no, you need to come now, because I had to drive from Dallas to Fort Worth, pack my stuff. And it's like, just come now, bring it back, go to the airport. So I rush home. Of course, like what most people do, I call my parents, I get on Facebook, and I'm like, hey, I'm going back to Seattle. You know, God is really working in my life. As soon as I get to the airport, the phone rings.
Oh my gosh.
206 number. Like, hello, and it's like, have you left yet? And I was like, no, I haven't left. Good, because we basically changed our mind.
Oh,
and at that
God.
point, that's when depression hit. That's when I felt, I questioned God, I questioned my faith. Even me talking to God, why would you bring me this far just to fail me?
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't really care about living. Not saying that I want to actually grab a gun and shoot myself, but I didn't care about life anymore.
Whoa.
And there was only one reason that kept me living, and that was my son.
It was your son.
It was my son. He was born in 2008 in that process, and that whole process kept going. And
was that Tristan?
That was Tristan. That was Tristan, man, and it was hard, man.
So obviously one of the lower points in your life, right?
Yeah.
So you said you focused on Tristan a little bit. Is that what some of the recommendations you would give to other people, that when they're down on something is to find something even outside of yourself? Or what
something
would you
that's
recommend?
bigger than you.
Something bigger than you.
Something that's bigger than you, because I just feel like you're living for yourself, right? If it's all about you. I tell people this all the time. If it's all about you, more than likely you're gonna quit. But when you have something that's bigger than you, you know, a lot of people say your why, your reason. You know, what's the reason why you wake up every single day?
Yes.
You're not gonna give up, because you know you're giving up on them.
Wow. I believe that, because your story, although it's sports related, and I think people would be surprised that confidence is even fragile at the highest levels, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most people would look at you and go, okay, unbelievable college football player, gets a chance to play professionally with some of the best players. One thing he doesn't lack is confidence. And that's one thing everybody should know. I lack confidence all the time. My confidence is fragile, man.
Yeah.
Like, you get a couple rejections, couple setbacks. I have to go through all those habits and rituals myself. But it's interesting to me, because your story, even though it was football, isn't that dissimilar for most people listening to this.
Yeah.
Most people have had their hopes up, whether it's a relationship or a business. It looks like it's going, then it's not. Then you get down, then you pick yourself back up. It looks like it's going, and then it's not. And I think some people think, man, I've picked myself up so many times.
Right.
Do I have that in me again to pick myself up off the floor yet again? What would you say to them about that?
You do have it, and there's always a greater purpose than your pain that you're going through. I think that we focus on the present moment, and we kind of say my life is over because something is over. Just because that relationship is over, just because that job is over, doesn't mean your life is over. And I'm like a living testament. I mean, so many. Your story, I'm sure, is a living testament to it. And when you just can tell yourself, I don't know, what that something else is.
Yes.
But there's something more to my life, and that's what I held on to. And I didn't know it would be this.
Sure.
But I just knew I couldn't afford to keep my life in that place of pain.
It's amazing, because you and I were talking off camera. It's like, oftentimes, this is hokey, it's a meme. Your test can become your testimony.
Yes.
Everything's happening for me and not to me. But these are truths, right? It's always true in hindsight. Like, the fact of the matter is, maybe you'd have played 3 or 4 years in the NFL, had a halfway decent career, saved a couple $100,000, and went into selling, mortgages somewhere or insurance somewhere. You would have never reached the millions of people that you've reached. You wouldn't be sitting here right now.
I can guarantee you 100% I wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for my struggle, if it wasn't for me losing my everything, right, I wouldn't be here.
It's amazing. And the other thing people can relate to, too, is like their first big dream didn't happen.
Yeah.
I do, too. Like, everyone in your family thought you were going to be a football player. Everybody had your back on that. Everyone. And then, so it's sometimes when our dream fails or a relationship fails, we haven't just let ourselves down. We've let down people all around us, and that impacts people too, right? So you said you focused on Tristan.
Yeah.
What took place then? So the career ends.
Yeah.
You've got a son, which we'll talk about in a minute, a little bit about the family life, because all that follow, if you don't follow Trent stuff, you're going to see this is one of the most vulnerable, thoughtful, positive people on all of social media. That's why his following is so big. But he doesn't ever try to come across like he's got it all figured out all the time. That's what I love about you.
I don't.
And neither do I. Why? People say, man, you get so excited with your guests here. I'm like, these guests are here for me, right? Like,
man.
I'm learning from them. I got something to bring to the table. I know I do, but I've learned so much from the people that are my guests, including you on and off camera. So you go through that time, and I know what it's like to have a career like that end as well. I wasn't as good as you were at my sport, but I understand that. So you're focused on your son. What then happened after your career?
Right, so I remember being in my mom's room, and it wasn't a magical moment. Like, I wish I could paint this story to tell you that it was some magical moment that led me there, but I remember being in my mom's, in my room in my mom's house. And I remember just looking around my room and seeing like all my football accomplishments. I seen pictures of Tristan, and I broke down and started crying. Like, literally, it wasn't some crazy thing that led me to that.
Yeah.
And at that moment, and I still live by these words, I said, it all starts with you. I said, you can either sink or you can swim. You can have this be the end of your life or the beginning to something better.
Beautiful.
And I came up with these words. It's rehab time. I never want to be a speaker. This is my biggest fear, and we can get into that. This is my biggest fear. You ask my parents, they'll tell you I'm the most introverted kid that they have.
Me too.
I'm an introvert by nature.
Me
People, too. I don't know how, I don't know how that works, but I'm an introvert. And I had no idea of social media following, any of that. I literally just said it's rehab time. And rehab for me meant putting a strength back into a weakness. If we're all honest, we have something in our life that we can rehab.
Yes.
Something that we can get better. And so for me, it meant going to the gym at 12 o'clock at night. And this was 2008, so I had one more try with the Redskins. And it's funny how I feel like God can use something to get you out of your funk, even though that's not the it that he wants for your life. And so I ran a 4.3, I got signed with the Redskins, and I'm living this rehab time journey. I get cut, but I was good then.
Yeah, you're okay this time.
I was okay. It was different than, like, I just knew that there was something more to my life.
Wow.
Second situation that really happened, that happened to me that really woke me up was my college roommate committing suicide. One of my best friends. And when that happened, I went to his service, and I realized that life isn't promised, and I realized, like, this is my boy that was going through struggles, that silent battles that I didn't know about. I felt like I wasn't there for him, so much guilt. I promised him, I said, Aunt, I'm gonna make you more alive in my life than you ever been.
Man.
And that's why I do what I do today.
So you found this gigantic purpose that was bigger than your fear of speaking or your introverted nature.
Big, way bigger than that. And he's more alive in my life than he's ever been. You know?
He's alive right now.
Exactly.
We're talking about him.
Exactly.
See, it's funny thing is that we've all lost people in our lives. And I always tell people, I said, you should honor them with who you become, right? And that's really what you've done for him. There's so many lessons. We've only like about 11 minutes into this or 8 minutes into it. But I want to go back. I want everyone to understand this, that even at the top level in sports and business and entertainment, you're going to find that we all have a chance. We can all lose our confidence. We can all get down. We've all struggled with false start after false start, getting our hopes up and being slammed back down. I love your point of finding a purpose bigger than you. I absolutely love that. And then also honoring the people in your life who maybe have transitioned out of it like he has. So, you know, it's interesting. I think when you're an athlete, maybe you'd agree with me on this, you don't even really know who you are sometimes when you're a good athlete. And what I mean by that is, when you're young, you're one of the better players all the time. You're constantly getting compliments. You're constantly getting this. And then what happened to you in football, I think is like, whoa, maybe this isn't my dream. Maybe this isn't my destiny. And I think another thing a lot of people have that are watching this, they not only struggle with their confidence, because I do. They not only struggle with being introverted, because I do.
Right.
We've all had these setbacks. But I think it's getting comfortable with who you are, your own skin, right? Like, I think you're a master of this topic because I think even being an athlete, it's easy to kind of lose yourself in the identity of what you do as opposed to the identity of who you are.
Exactly.
So many of us, our identity is caught up in our career or who our children are, right? Or who our family is, or our previous story is our identity. And we never really get comfortable with who we are, which is the most powerful people I know are the most self-aware. They work on self-love the most. Doesn't mean they like themselves all the time, right? But I think you're kind of an expert on this topic. So talk a little bit about getting comfortable with you, your own skin, who you are.
Right. I think one of the best things that you can do is getting to know yourself, stripped of all the identities the world gives you. You know? Who are you without the title? You know, who are you without the significance that the world gives you? And I had to figure that out because, of course, like you said, when I was a football player, and even now with rehab time, you know, the world will give me these titles of who I am. This is your identity. You have to be this person. And when you lose that, you will lose yourself.
Golly, that's good.
And so
dude.
I call it protecting my peace. I did it earlier out here. I mean, a beautiful place to protect your peace in Laguna Beach. I do it every single day. I protect my peace by diving into who I am, right? My struggles, my insecurities, things I'm tempted by. I get to know myself better. And I think a lot of people, they don't get to know themselves.
I don't
at
either.
all. They don't spend time. I mean, I tweeted this out, I Snapchat this out today, and someone says, I can't be by myself. And I think one of the greatest successes is to be able to be by yourself and still not feel alone.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that.
Enjoy your own company, man.
You know, that's a lot of people that follow me are introverts like you and I try to tell them, I say, you know, one of the cool things about being an introvert, there's always good in what we all have. Yes. One of the cool things about being an introvert is, for the most part, we are a little bit comfortable with being by ourselves.
Yes.
We're almost uncomfortable with the reverse, right?
Exactly.
And so, but it is important that people take this lesson from you, because I do likewise, and that is just spending some time alone and getting to know yourself better with your own thoughts, whether it be meditation, prayer, or just talking to yourself.
That's right.
One of the things that's a secret I'll tell everybody about me is I talk to myself a lot.
I do it too.
Do you really?
I do it too all the time.
I talk to myself.
I tell people, hey, you can, if you're driving next to me in the car, you might see me talking to myself. That guy's crazy.
Me too.
All the time,
I'm so glad to hear that. No one's ever said that back to me before. I don't feel so crazy. Since I was a little boy, probably because I was shy and introverted and there was all this chaos in my life, I started talking to myself. And by the way, it serves me to this day. I take a walk on the beach. If you were walking behind me, you'd think I was delusional, because it's not always quiet time. I'm so glad to hear that back from you. So that's another key. Like, you're loaded with all of these keys of how you transformed yourself. But the RehabTime thing fascinates me because it's become a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think everybody, I mean, I'm in rehab right now on different parts of my personality, on my life. They're in rehab at any given time, right? Like, I talk a lot about balance isn't always, perfect, because I'm rehabbing things at different times. What is RehabTime now? We know where it came from now,
right?
But what is it now, and what that whole meaning in people's lives?
Right.
Let's talk about that.
It's a platform to help people turn their pain into power. If I was
pain
to wrap
into power.
Yeah, and that's what I want to do. And it's not just about me. Like, that's the beautiful thing about RehabTime. I call them rehabbers, right? My community.
Yes.
If you see my community, what's so cool about it is that people take rehab for what they need to take it for. For some people, it's fitness. For some people, it's spiritual growth. For some people, it is building your brand, right? Whatever it may be, whatever it is that you need to work on.
Yeah.
So it's super cool to be able to see that, because that was my vision for it. I didn't want it to be, oh, let me put Trent on the pedestal, he's the guru. No, it's just an environment for anybody to rehab their life. And I just happen to be the face to help you influence that by living it, breathing it, being it.
What did that process look like for you? What did you start to do to rehab you? So you got alone, you got to know yourself better, but what were some of the things you did?
So I took control of things I could control. I think, for me at least, I don't know if anybody else feels like this watching this, is that we try to control the things that are out of our control.
Yes.
And it's like it drives you crazy. So I asked myself, what can I control? And so I can control my physical. I can control my mental. So of course I went to the gym. I turned up my physical fitness to a whole nother level. I turned up my mental to a whole nother level. That means I got around people, and for me, it was uncomfortable because I'm an introvert. Asking for help or getting around crowds of people, like, that makes me uncomfortable, even to this day as a speaker. But I knew I had to push myself outside of my comfort zone to create a comfortable life, if that makes any sense, right?
Yes, total sense.
And my spiritual walk. I want to dive into my word more. I want to strengthen my faith more. And so I really engulf myself in these environments. I call them growth environments, right? Because it's impossible to grow your life if you're around an environment that don't promote growth.
Yes.
And so I don't want to get into this, but actually I do want to get into it.
Let's do it.
I had to cut friends out of my life.
Yeah.
That was a big part of my rehab process. And a lot of people know me for that guy that will help you, remove the bad things from your life. And so I had to let go of friends. Friends that were good for me, but they weren't helping me get to the level I wanted to get to.
Yes.
And they're still my friends today, but I had people in my life that only loved me for who I was. Right? I mean, only loved me for what I did.
Yes.
Not who I was.
Yes.
And I had to realize that when I lost football, I lost a lot of those people.
Figured out who they really were.
Exactly. And I tell this a lot because a lot of people are afraid to lose people, and I get it. I know it's hard to lose people that you love, whether it's family and friends, but sometimes you have to learn how to love people from a distance.
Boy, oh boy.
You do.
Yeah. Stay on that. So you said something now I want to understand. You said they're still in my life.
Yeah.
So this is so critical.
Yeah.
Because I think people think, wait a minute, I have to call them and say, I am no longer having you. There may be somebody like that in your life, if they're abusive or adversarial to you. You say you're gone, right? There's those people. That's 1 or 2% of the people in your life. But there's 20 to 40% of the people in your life that association, their proximity of their association doesn't serve you. So just elaborate on that, because you said they're still in your life, but you love them from a distance. I've not ever heard this. So I heard it from you on your content, but nowhere else.
So I have 3 levels of people that I try to categorize, and this kind of sounds bad, but I had to take care of my life.
Right.
I categorize people in. I have associates, people that, I have maybe a business relationship with, or somebody that, just is cordial.
Yes.
Then I have friends. Friends are people that, it's a closer proximity, but I know at the end of the day that if something was to really happen to me, they probably wouldn't be there for me, nor do I expect it.
Yes.
So I believe you have to learn how to trust people for who they are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Like you can't expect a liar to tell the truth.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, and then my third level is family. And family doesn't have to be blood. It doesn't have to be whatever. It's just people that I know at the end of the day, if I was on my deathbed, if RehabTime failed, no more blue checks about my name, no more Twitter, none of that.
Yep.
They would still be there for me. And those are the people that I choose to spend my time around.
Well, that's a massive distinction. I hope everybody goes back, rewinds this, and plays that part back. It moves me so much because I don't think that it's crass to put people in those categories. And I think people conflate this and they spend their time with the wrong people out of almost guilt or long-term, like longevity causes me to be around you, right? History.
Yeah.
And I also want to go back to something you said because I want to just stay on this point for a minute because it's critical to rehabbing an area, is adding new associations and eliminating the old ones, right? Like, I don't get why people go to a gym and get trained by somebody who's out of shape. I just don't understand it. Or they follow social media guru in an area. Like, the people who want to rehab and transform their life, we're going to talk in a minute a story, especially about your son, that just proves how much someone can transform themselves. So if they want to transform themselves, you're the perfect person to follow. If you want to get wealthy, there's people you should follow that are wealthy, right? So, but you said something interesting about, you know, when you cut them out of your life. How do you said that these people, they loved you for what you did, but not who you were, right?
Yeah.
I think the other element is you have certain friends who love you conditionally, and that is that you don't change who you are also.
Yeah.
I had a lot of those friends. Like, man, I love you who, I like the guy that we go and have a couple drinks with. I like the dude who wants to play golf all the time. I like that guy. This other dude, you're making me, and what happens really is I think you make them uncomfortable with your change, don't you? So what about making that distinction too? Like people who only love you if you stay the way you are. And you could be in a relationship with somebody like that, in a marriage, right? So elaborate on that.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Ed. People will only love, not everybody, but these type of people will only love the benefit that will only love the you that was beneficial to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And so like you said, the you that was partying and made them feel comfortable. But like I always tell my friends, like, wasn't the goal for us to change? Wasn't it the goal for us to be successful? What happens is that your success when you're around people who aren't comfortable with who they are.
Yeah.
When they don't know who they are. Right?
Yeah.
That admiration turns into jealousy and envy.
Yes.
Because they feel like they should have it. And also too, it's because they're so close to you.
Yeah.
I want to take it here because I get so many people ask me like, Trent, my family doesn't support me. The people that I thought would be there. And listen, I want to be clear to everybody watching this. I know you want their support, but you don't need their support.
Yes.
I know you want it, but you don't need it.
Yes.
And the reason why most people don't support you because they're too close to you.
Yes.
Right?
That's so true.
It's hard to see if I was to hold up something, I told you to close your eyes, and I was to hold it up in a dollar bill, whatever.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to see it.
Yes.
Right? You wouldn't be able to see the value until I moved back from it.
Oh my gosh.
And then you could see it. That's why it's so easy to support celebrities and people that you don't know, because you don't see the imperfections in them. You have nothing to judge them for. So if you have somebody in your life that sees your greatness despite your imperfections, keep that person around you.
One of the greatest things ever said on my show right there. They're too close to you.
They're too close to you.
Oh my gosh.
And it says more about them than it does about you, because some people don't believe greatness could be that close to them.
Oh man, that was amazing. Like, that's a fact. And I was thinking as you were talking, like, that's amazing what you just said. By the way, that explains even some things currently in my own life, even at this level, right?
Yeah.
Like, wow, their perception's altered because they're so dadgum close. That's wonderful. I was also thinking, you know, just so everyone knows this, people ask me, are all your friends really wealthy and successful? No.
Right.
In fact, a couple of my very best friends, I consider them incredibly successful, but not wealthy.
Right.
They're successful as husbands, they're successful as dads, they're successful in their contribution. They don't measure success based on money, but I consider them successful people. But all my friends, most of them have this in common. They're very self-aware.
Yeah.
They're self-aware, and so because they're so self-aware, they're aware also of me. It's very difficult to be able to give yourself to somebody and support them if you don't even aware of who the heck you are.
Exactly.
So I got some goofy, crazy friends, but I love that about them. Not all of them are business moguls or former athletes. They're just people who kind of know themselves and like themselves and want to change themselves. That's what mine have in common. But I want to talk about that change now with you.
Yeah.
Because they see this man. I mean, I think it's obvious that, you know, you and I are grown men. We're sinners saved by God's grace in both of our minds, but we make mistakes.
Yeah.
And we're both always trying to figure stuff out. But let's be honest. I think one of the reasons you've evolved so much is that you're vulnerable with the changes you made. So if you follow Trent, and if you're not, you're about to, all of you, you know, you're going to see someone who's constantly giving wonderful advice like what you're hearing, based on his own experiences and mistakes. But it's amazing to me to think that this man that I know is such a loving father.
Yeah.
And when we talk on the phone or in person about what kind of father you are, about what kind of a son you are, a friend you are, a husband you are, I consider you a great man based on those things about you. But those are things that have also made progress in your life too. So if you're willing to talk about this just for a second,
for sure,
let's talk a little bit about Tristan and your son, because you said at 3 years old, you know, you would come back and all that. But if you don't mind sharing this, I want all the men and women hearing this who right now are beating themselves up about a behavior they have, that's listening to this. There's something you're ashamed of. There's something that you've done in the past or are currently doing that you think because you've been bad, you can't win, you can't make progress, you can't change, you don't deserve to succeed. And you keep beating yourself up about this, something you've done that you don't feel good about. So if you'd share this, and they can see a total turnaround if somebody share it.
Before I share, I want to share 3 things real quick because I'll forget.
Okay.
Where these 3, and some people who follow me might have heard these things, but I came up with these quotes based upon this transformation.
Okay.
Number 1, I said my transparency will lead to my transformation. And I want them to understand that. Your transparency will lead to your transformation and other people's transformation.
Whoa, awesome.
The second thing that I told myself was see my heart, not my past. Right? Because just because you made some past mistakes doesn't mean your future can't be great. So understand that. So with my story, me and Maria, who's my wife, you know, we didn't have a Cinderella type of, you know, come together and it was so beautiful. We went through a lot.
Yeah.
You know, Tristan was born out of wedlock. And it hurts me to say this, man. And Tristan knows. So if he ever sees this, he knows. But I was viewing Tristan as a disappointment. When Maria called me and told me she was pregnant, I was viewing him as a disappointment. And it's amazing how, when I fast forward, how God can use what you thought was your biggest disappointment as your greatest rescue.
Absolutely. And Tristan, when you listen to this later, the first thing your daddy talked about when we first met was you.
Exactly.
Just so you know.
Exactly.
So that's why it's so, and he knows.
And he knows.
Right.
And so the reason I say that is because me and Maria, I had a girlfriend at the time.
You had another girlfriend?
I had another girlfriend at the time. This is my first time talking about it, man. Okay. So I'm giving it to you, brother. I had a girlfriend at the time, and we were off and on. And that was still no excuse for me to do what I was doing, but I was messing around. I was living that lifestyle, man, which is a hard lifestyle to handle. I mean, you have money, you have everything at your disposal. You want to live that life. And I ended up getting Maria pregnant. And when Maria called me, I made her feel like she was wrong for getting pregnant because I didn't want to face my truth because I knew I had to call my girlfriend. I had to say, hey, I cheated. And, you know, make a long story short, I was in New York and I tell her and, you know, she kicks me out and I feel like my punishment was right after I get stuck in the airport for 2 days. For 2 days. And what was even deeper is our families were close.
Yeah.
So our parents that were best friends didn't talk for years.
Oh.
And I subconsciously and even consciously, I was blaming Maria for it. So I was treating her wrong throughout our whole pregnancy. And it was probably the lowest point of my life, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it took me facing my reality, which a lot of us don't do. You will never win your war by running from your battles. So it took me manning up, looking myself in the mirror and say, you're not being a man. You had an example. You have no excuse. Your dad was a man.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
My dad was in my life.
Yeah.
And so I faced it, man. And to fast forward, you know, me and Maria, we went through our ups and downs. She dated other people. I dated other people. But Maria was there for me when nobody else was.
Yeah.
She had all the right to get back at me by saying, oh, you're nobody now. You don't have football no more. You're playing arena football. You don't have any money. She never threw that in my face. She never bothered me about child support when I couldn't afford it. She stuck by my side regardless. And I appreciate her forever. Baby, watching this, I love you forever for this. And she believed in my purpose when nobody else did.
That's wonderful.
And a lot of people on social media are like, oh, you know, Maria doesn't, she's a silent supporter.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I do.
It's like, oh, she should be a speaker. No, she shouldn't.
Yes.
If she wants to be that, fine. But she supports me more than anybody else because she allows me to do what I do without any interference.
I love you, man. Like, just so you know, your transparency does lead to your transformation. And the fact that you're willing to share this, because he's such an incredible father, and you can see his love for Maria and how he talks about her. And by the way, Maria, same thing, off camera too. That's how I measure a man, right? Like when no one's around, when you're with your boys, then how do you talk? How do you act? And I admire that about you, but like people say, well, I'm vulnerable on social media. That's real vulnerability.
Yeah,
Which
man.
you just, because all of us listen to this. Listen, everybody, I love you so much, man. I appreciate you so much because you're so highly respected. And it's easy when we're in the positions you and I are in to sort of put on a facade of perfection. And, people say, well, I share that's sharing something. And I hope everybody listen to this. We all have things in our life. Listen. We all have things in our life we're ashamed of.
That's right.
I was just thinking of something the other day. In the interest of time, I was like, I can't believe I did that. At one age, I'd done something in a classroom on a test in college, and I was like, I can't believe I did that. We all do things we're ashamed of, and what happens is we hold our own sins against ourselves for the rest of our life, and they hold us back from making progress. So the fact that you do share this, it does give you a chance to move past it and to make progress. I'm so impressed with you. I want everyone to hear this message. This man has turned himself into one of the most influential people on the earth about how to transform your life and change your life, and he came from the places he's describing to you.
Forget perfection. Forget it.
It doesn't exist.
And I know in the social media era, it's popular. It's popular, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's like nobody's really posting their struggles. And I'm not telling you to go on a soapbox and post all your struggles online. I'm not saying that, but just be real. It's okay to show that you're human. It's okay to be embarrassed. I mean, when I first started speaking, it was 10 people that showed up, and it was my family and my friends, but I was proud.
Yes.
I was happy about that. And I just see so many entrepreneurs, influencers trying to fake it till they make it.
You're so right. The better thing to do, when we agreed, by the way, we were going to riff today because we share stuff. The better thing to do is to get people rooting for you. And by the way, when you're vulnerable, people root for you. When you show your weaknesses and your bad days and the things that aren't going good. So you shouldn't do it for this reason, but here's the secret. If you want to grow your social media content, if you come across perfect all the time, that kind of gets boring, right?
It's not relatable.
It's not relatable, it's not true, and people kind of sense it. So unbelievable story, just unbelievable. Let's talk some more about family stuff for a second, because you and I are both, let's help people. What I love about today is like every story help someone, and that's what's great about your content too, that you put out all the time. But you and I are both sharing in something right now that we both come from great families, and my dad right now, so people also listen to this, they're going through something. There's a struggle or a challenge in their life that's serious, right? Maybe it's not that big, but you made it big. And in our case, it is big. So my dad right now is fighting cancer, and my dad is my hero, right? I got a wonderful dad too. And yet every day I get up and work and win and produce, and I don't use that as an excuse. I'm honoring my dad with my life. And your mom's also got cancer right now too. Can you talk a little bit about, whatever you want to share about that, but also like how do you deal with it? How do you continue to get up every day when I'm sure it gets you down? Yeah,
it's hard, man. I don't know if I have it all figured out with how to deal with it. You know, I'm still trying to figure that out, but it hit us by surprise. I mean, and just to kind of paint the picture of who my mom is responsible for my dad's faith, my faith. She's the warrior of our family. And out of nowhere, she's just started feeling weak. She went to the doctor. Her mother, my grandmother, passed away a year before, so I think a lot of stress has something to do with that. Passed away from cancer. She went to the doctor, and she had cancer. She had breast and liver cancer, stage 4.
Oh boy. They
gave her 6 months to live without treatment. With treatment, maybe, it's not a guarantee, of course. She goes through the treatment, and what hurts the worst is seeing somebody you love like change.
Yes.
And it's like, man, I'm the strong one. Give it to me. Let me take it. And it was hard because, I saw my mom's faith start to weaken. And I remember being with her at the barbershop. She went to my barber. I get edge up. She's like, he's dreads. How's he get his haircut?
I was just wondering that.
And so we're at the barbershop, and she wanted the barber to come to the house because she was so, as a woman, you're losing your hair, and she's like, I don't want to go. I said, Mom, just go. Just own it. Just go. Because the only way you're going to get through it is if you own it. We can't run from it. You got to face that battle. And she's in the chair and she's crying. And I have to do my best to be strong for her and not show that I'm crying inside. And lost her hair. And to make this story a little bit more bright, the 6th month on Halloween, she went back to the doctor and she got a report that she was cancer-free.
Oh, wow.
So she went through her post-treatment. Wow. And, just sitting in that room, man, with people going through their...
Yes.
It's tough.
It changes you, doesn't it? It gives you perspective.
It makes you realize that, it makes you grateful just for having health.
It does.
I mean, it made me turn my health to another level, man. And she went through that process and her post-treatment, and she rung the bell. You know, they have a bell that she rings, and I actually put it on my Instagram, and we're celebrating. But that day, she said, I feel weak, like something's not right. And I'm like, Mom, you're all right. Like, it's in your head, you're fine. The doctor said, you're fine, Akko, because my mom she's not a drama queen, but she can be over the top, you know? You know, and she said, no, I want to go to the doctor. So she went to the doctor. Make a long story short, she got re-diagnosed with brain cancer.
Oh, no.
And at that moment, it hit me, man.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I honestly, my faith started to question God. I'm like, I'm doing all this for people, and like, what's going on? Like, my mom is so great, why her? And in that moment, I just remember my mom always told me, don't say, why God? You know, say, why not me? And I knew my mother at that moment, it was a bigger purpose in her pain she was going through.
Yeah.
And so many people in her journey has been strengthened, and she's currently fighting her journey to this day. She's getting better. But it tore me apart, man. It tore me, and it still tears me apart.
I'm sorry to hear that, because I relate. So I know your face looks like my face when you talk about it, right? It's interesting, though. It's interesting how, and I don't have all the answers either, but I do know that my dad's cancer, and in your mom's case, it has given me perspective about my own relationships, my own health, my own gratitude. And then here's the other thing maybe you haven't considered. Your mother's cancer just helped millions more people right now through you.
That's right.
It's amazing that God might choose you or me to have these situations, so we have these platforms to be able to express the important things about life, because it's hard in situations this difficult. How in the world is this happening for me and not to me, right? Or happening for mom and not to mom. But it's amazing how God can take one life and use that life to transform millions of other people's lives. And he chooses average people all the time. And I don't mean to be spiritual with you. I don't care what your faith is, what your religion is. But in almost every faith, in almost every religion, and in my religion and Christianity, which I believe is yours as well, the Lord took 12 average people and took them to transform the world, right? And in every religion, you'll find that average, ordinary people, and sometimes people from deficient backgrounds, whether poor people or people from broken families, are always utilized to make great things happen. And I believe that the Lord's chosen you and your mom to make a difference with this. And so thank you for being willing to share that.
No problem, man.
Because everybody listening to this, we're all going through this journey together. We're just here to help express the way we're getting through it with you. So thank you so much for that. I want to ask you a question, though, about this rehab thing.
Yeah.
There are people listening who go, I want to do this, and I do need to start to accept myself better. I do need to start to, you call it self-love, like myself more, appreciate myself more, have more confidence, whatever it is. But I've got 20 years. I'm 20 years old. I got 20 years of not doing it. Or I got 25 years of not doing it, or 30 years of not having confidence, not loving myself, not believing in myself. What would you say to me? What could be something practically that I could do, a step, something that you do that can start that process of turning that around? Any practical step, any thought, any idea for them?
As far as them
turning that negative process for 20 or 30 years into like, okay, how do I want to change it. I got it. I got to love myself more. I got to like myself more. I got to have more confidence. How?
Yeah. I would say, first of all, you have to own it. That's the first step. You will never heal what you're in denial from. It doesn't work at all. You know, some of us, we try to mask it. We try to tuck it in. We try to suppress it. And one of the things that I love to say, suppression will lead to depression. So own it. That's the first thing. Own it that, okay, hey, embarrass yourself. You know, that's one of my things for 2019. I want to embarrass myself. I want to tell people, hey, I'm not the smartest guy in this. Hey, I don't have it all figured out. It's cool. I lacked confidence for 20 years. Who cares? You know how many people have lacked so many things for so many years that turned it around? Like, you're one decision, one choice away, and a commitment away from changing your life. So first of all, own it. The second thing I would tell you to do is get around a growth environment of people that help you build it.
Must change your environment.
Yeah, it's simple. I mean, if you took a flower, right? You can say the most beautiful flower in the world. You took that flower and you put that flower in the wrong environment, what's gonna happen to that flower? It's gonna die, right? It's gonna wither away. And so look at your life as that flower. Right? Change your environment. When the flower doesn't blossom, we don't blame the environment. We don't blame the flower. What do we do?
It's the environment.
We change the environment.
Yes, exactly.
So if you're not growing, take a look at the people around you. And like I said, don't feel guilty for recognizing your worth. Don't feel guilty for wanting to better your life. Don't feel guilty for, as I like to say, making the world respect your greatness. So get around that, and then I would tell you to start with what you can control. Find one thing that you can control that's totally in your control. It doesn't depend on how many people like your post or anything. What's one thing that you can control and become consistent with it? Consistency will change your life. I'm not the most talented speaker, right? I'm not the most talented whatever, but I'm the most consistent at living my purpose. I've been doing this for a decade. Right? And so be consistent, and I promise you, over time, consistency will make you a go-to person.
Well, I could not answer that better. I completely agree with you. I would have used one or two words differently in the identical sequence of it.
Right.
I want to just add on to what you just said there, everybody, about environment. They say, okay, what is environment? You know, by the way, environment can be a group you join. It could be a coaching group. It could be new friends. It could be a new company, a new business.
Right.
But it also can be, I have a community in the Max Out community. You have the rehab community.
That's right.
So your associations are these communities. You're posting regularly. If you're commenting in these communities, if you participate in Instagram lives or listening to the podcast, that's part of changing your environment. You don't give yourself enough credit, everybody. You are changing your environment by virtue of listening to this today.
That's right.
This audio or this video you're watching is in your current environment. And so you can have all of these associations through different ways. Books you read, things of that sort, shift your environment dramatically. I want to make sure that they find you because you're giving away so much free good information here. So I want to make sure that they can come find you. So you know that I'm a follower of yours. And I listen, everybody, I want to say something about Trent. I consider myself an inspired person. I consider myself, productive and growing and changing. But there are people that I rely on to give me perspective, that give me peace, that give me confidence, that give me inspiration, and you're one of those people for me.
Man, thank you.
And so I follow you on Instagram. So first, how do they follow you on Instagram? Where do they find you?
Just at Trent Shelton.
At Trent Shelton. And then if they want to go to find out more about RehabTime or your site, where do they go for that?
TrentShelton.com.
TrentShelton.com. So it's pretty clean.
Yep.
Pretty simple. I know people are going to want to know this. You're one of the fastest growing people I've ever seen on social media.
Right.
And by the way, successful on multiple platforms too, which is very unique. What insights would you give people listening to this that want to grow or improve their social media presence?
Right. I mean, definitely everything we talked about being transparent, understanding your message. I like to say understanding your magnet. Like what attracts people to you, right? What is it? Is it the way you smile? Is it your voice? Is it the way you look? Whatever it may be, understanding your magnet and really strengthening that.
Very good, yeah.
And then I live by a formula I call CRC. I just broke it down to help me remember it. The first C stands for content. You want high level content. And understand when I mean high level, it doesn't mean that you have to have some big production. If you see most of my videos, I started with my cell phone.
Me too.
Just right to it. And to be honest with you, those videos get more views than my production.
Could I just say something? 100% the case with me too.
Exactly.
Same thing. Yeah.
So high level content. Second is relationships. And that's why I love how me and you came together. It's like, it's no ego involved. It's like, how can I help you? How can I serve you? Trent, vice versa. And I think a lot of times we think, oh, we can't connect with this person because they're in our space.
Yeah.
No, build those relationships. And as far as even on a deeper version of that, not just with influencers or somebody that might be in your space, with your community. Build relationships with, those are the people who help you become who you are. And it just baffles me how some people just forget about those people.
So true.
So I'm in my DMs, I call people.
Me too.
I'm in my comments because I can't answer everyone.
Right.
But I want to connect with them to let them know that I do care.
Yes.
So build those relationships, and then the last C would be consistency. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, especially in the social media era now, like you have to be consistent. If you're not consistent, you will be forgotten. So be consistent, not just in what you post, but also too in your lifestyle. You shouldn't come with an on-off switch, right? People should know who you are.
Yes.
People should know who you are. So I know if I go to your page, I know exactly what I'm going to get for you.
Yes.
I know it's not going to be some curveball.
Right.
I know exactly what I'm going to get from you, and I think that's how you build a good following.
I could not agree more. What wonderful tips. By the way, the magnet I've never heard before.
Yeah.
And let's just talk about the magnet for a second. Like the consistency part. By the way, that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Is being consistent, and it's just mainly documenting who you are. But that is work. I totally agree with you about being engaged in your relationships with comments and DMs. That's just mandatory. But for some of you that are, your magnet could be lots of things, as you said. Your magnet could be your message. Your magnet could be your physical beauty. Your magnet could be that you're a mom and working and you're showing that process with your children and people relate to that. Your magnet could be your stuff. Your magnet could be your struggle.
That's right.
Your magnet could be your transformation. But you got to figure out what your magnet is because it's different for so many different people. And my magnet's changed over time. Initially it was kind of like a fitness thing, then it moved into personal development, and that's just the magnet's changed. So wonderful point. What if someone asked you, Trent, I'm struggling to find my purpose.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure for you, like you said, like football ended, you didn't know your purpose was going to be this. So I want to find my purpose. I want to help people. I love people. I want to make a difference. My intentions are good, but I'm not sure I know what my purpose is. What would you say?
This is going to be tough because I actually talked about this in the book, and I just had a realization, and it might not be true for everybody, and we can like dialogue about this. I think it'd be great. But when people say, I'm trying to find my purpose, I just wonder, does the world have it? You know?
What do you mean?
Like, does I think when you search for something, a lot of times we don't find our purpose. What we find is what we want. You know?
Yeah.
And so I feel like you are purpose. You. God created you, whatever your faith is, my faith, God created you for a purpose, on purpose. He set you apart. He tells us that. And so when you look at it as I am purpose, that means that you can take whatever it is inside of your gift and go through to any place and serve. Everybody's purpose is to help someone else. Now what you're searching for is the avenue of how to do it, whether it's to be a speaker, whether it's to be an author, then you have to, I think, work through that process to find that. But I think the first step is knowing that I am purpose.
Wow.
And when I realized that I could be myself anywhere and make a difference. So I don't have a platform. You don't need a platform. Your platform is this world.
Yes.
You can log off right now and go talk to somebody. And I think you said that in one of your stories about how you met a guy in
just recently.
Yeah. And I was like, there you go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
An opportunity. The avenue is all around us.
Man, I would not add to that because I think it's absolutely incredibly true. You did say 2 words there I want to feature though.
Yeah.
I've never heard somebody say I am purpose. That's exactly right. And I feel like some of the best work I've done in my life's never been on social media. It's been in the back seat, where like last week I was sitting in the back seat of that cab and talking to that young man who was struggling with his life. You said 2 things there that I think are really important: service to other people and gift. Yeah. Your purpose is somewhere in that gift you've got. Exactly. And most people are too humble to understand their gift, but your gift could be your beauty, your articulation, your intention, how humble you are, your faith, your strength, your confidence, your humility, your nurturing skills, your intellect, your humor. You have all kinds of gifts, but I think if you combine your gift with service, you probably are finding it. So,
and that's exactly right. And one more thing I want to add to that. It took me letting go of what I wanted to do to grab a hold on to what I was created to do.
Oh, so good.
It literally did. And so that's the hard part, right? My calling, I didn't want this calling.
Yes.
I didn't want to do this.
Yep.
But it was the avenue, it was the whatever you want to call it. This is what I was created to do.
Oh my gosh.
And so think about that. Maybe you're holding on to something that is not allowing your purpose, right? To really, it's not allowing you to really understand what your purpose is.
Pure brilliance and genius. And if you'll allow me, we were talking about this off camera, whereas it's not only even sometimes what you think you want to do, but it's also what everybody around you thinks. Like everyone thought your purpose was to be this football player. You thought it was probably, but really everyone around you did. Same with me in my sport. And the fact of the matter is maybe when you let go of what everybody else thinks your purpose is, and maybe even what you think it is, you'll find it. That is, again, what I love is you say things I've not heard before. And again, today's conversation is as much for me as it is for the audience. That is pure brilliance. And by the way, I always want to acknowledge things like truth. You are right about what you're saying here, 100% right. I got one more question for you. Actually, I have about 80 more questions, but we promised we'd only take so much time. He's got to fly home today. This is so wonderful for me.
Man, I'm enjoying it, man.
Because you forget, everybody, you forgot a long time ago. This was a professional athlete sitting in front of you. What I love about you is so quickly your achievements, your who you could posture yourself to be just disappears into service of people.
Yeah.
And I love that about you. And I think people that are listening to this, they want to be in service to people too. They want to make a difference. So if someone had the fortunate circumstance of being in my seat with you, they ran into you in a Starbucks, or they're going to run into you at the airport, and they go, Mr. Shelton, can I get 2 minutes with you?
Yeah.
And you said, sure, and I know you well enough, you would do that. And they said, I want to change my life. I want to be somebody. I want to make a difference in the world. And I've learned so much from you in all of your audios and your teachings and your Instagram posts and your snaps and all these other things. Is there anything that you would share with me? So if you got a minute or two with somebody and they said, I want to change my life. You've given a lot of tips and keys today. Owning it, being self-aware, all of the different things that we've covered today. I don't want to go back through that list. What would you add to it? What would you say to them?
I would tell them that one, your life isn't over. because I think so many people need to hear that, because there's so many people smiling for the camera and dying behind the scenes. So many people smiling for the camera and dying behind the scenes. I would tell them that they're enough. And I would ask them, why do you want to change your life?
Yes.
What's the reason behind that? Is it an external reason? Is it to be more popular, to be famous? So I would tell them that's not enough. I feel like one of the biggest disappointments is to be successful and still be unfulfilled.
Yes.
And so I would tell them to seek fulfillment, understand who you are, be real with yourself, be you.
Yeah.
Be you. If you look at me and be inspired, you see, like, this is how I show up on stage.
Yes.
Be yourself. Because in being yourself, you will change more lives than you ever could.
Yeah. Yeah.
And own that story. Don't live in the story, because some of us, we live in our story forever and we never grow out of it. But own your story and share your story, because the world needs your voice. And you might be feeling like you're insignificant, or I didn't think my story was significant, but I owned it. And now my story reaches millions across the world. And whether it reached 1 or 1 million, it still impacted somebody, and that's what life is about.
That's so wonderful. That's just extraordinary. I don't know that I've had anybody sitting next to me who lives what they teach as well as you do. And I've had wonderful people here. I've had incredible guests on my show. But I really believe you embody what you teach.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what I call being congruent and being authentic. And so I would layer onto that, own your story, own you, and be congruent. Be who you present yourself to be. Do what you say you're going to do. And I got to tell you, today's been just miraculous, man. Like,
I enjoyed it.
Because I know we've covered issues that have not been covered on my show previously, and the people needed this today. Like, I know the folks out there that follow me, that follow you, needed this, and people wanted to see you and I get together so much. And just so you all know, you're going to see more of us together.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to be doing a whole bunch of different things together. I'm excited, by the way, about your book that's coming out as well. And so let's just briefly talk about your book and where they might be able to get that.
So my book is called The Greatest You, and it's just a journey, man, from turning your pain into power. I share a lot of my story. I share a lot of my ideas to help you become that greatest you. And you can get it anywhere books are sold. So it'll be everywhere.
Anywhere books are sold. So you'll be looking for that. You may be watching this at a time where it's not out yet and you're going to need to be looking for it, but you should go look for it now because it may already be on the shelf. So Trent, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate you, man. This is awesome. Thank you.
I knew it would be. So, hey, everybody, I know you got a lot of value out of today. You're super inspired. This is one of those that I know you're going to listen back a couple times to get those keys and those tips. I just want to ask you a favor, please. We're the fastest growing program in the world. I bring you some of the most incredible humans on the spinning earth. All I ask you to do is to share this. So if you're listening to this on the audio version, please go subscribe to the YouTube so you can see the videos. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you're getting the audio version, because I'm beginning to post content that's different. Some is just video and some is just audio, so you'll miss if you're only subscribed to one. And then I just want to remind you, every day on social media, we do the max out 2-minute drill. When I make a post on Instagram, within the first 2 minutes, if you make a comment, hashtag max out attached to your comment, within the first 2 minutes, we pick a winner every single day on there, and they get my books, gear, a call from one of my guests, a call from myself. Would you do one of them?
For sure.
So we get a 10-minute call with Trent as well. So thank you, by the way, for doing that. If you miss the first 2 minutes, just make a comment every day. At the end of the week, we take all the people who commented every day and we pick a winner from there as well. So I'd love to be interacting with you more. Stay part of the Max Out community. And by the way, God bless you and thank you so much for your support and your continued listening or viewership of the program. Max Out. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. If you'd like more, click the videos right here. They're exactly what you need to see next. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and become a part of the Max Out community. And tell me what you think about the videos in the comments below. I read all of them every week, and I select winners that get all kinds of prizes, gear, coaching calls with me. Make a comment.